Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another video. I'm James and this is Jacq, and for the last 12 months we've been travelling Australia, fishing every bit of coastline we can get our trusty Prado and tinny into. This week we sit down and talk you through all of the fishing gear that we have had with us for the last 12 months, explaining what we use it for and how we store it all. If you like what we do, please hit the subscribe button and let us know what you reckon in the comments. Thanks for watching. So getting into our fishing rods, before I started deciding what rods I was going to bring, I do have a lot of rods at home already. I've fished my whole life, so I had a pretty good selection to choose from, but I knew that the storage was going to be a really big thing for us. I like to use graphite, like high quality rods, and they're pretty delicate if you don't look after them, and constant like wax to the bodies of the rod can just cause them to explode. So I had to work out where we're going to store these, and our camper trailer has a perfect, it's called a pole box, and that pole box is 168 centimeters long. So I had the choice of getting rods that were two-piece, and as long as one piece isn't longer than 168 centimeters, I was fine. Or if I wanted to stick with one-piece rods, I had to make sure they were under that size. So the rods that you would have seen the most of, if you've seen any of our other videos, are these two. These rods we've used for everything. We've used them for jigging, for bottom fishing, obviously lots and lots of trolling. These rods have seen a lot of hours on the water. They're both identical, nothing is different, everything down to the line is the same. And the rods are a Daiwa Saltus Extreme, and they are 168 centimeters on the dot, and the reel is a Shimano Saragossa SW 10,000 reel. The line on this reel is Suffix 832 braid. I use that on every single rod I own. I really like it. I've used it for many years. I just think it's really good quality braid. It's 80-pound braid, and there's about 300 meters on here, so there's plenty of line on there, and it's 80-pound is like almost as heavy as you can go in terms of braid. So these rods are designed to stop anything, and if you've seen some of our videos, catching big marlin on these rods, big yellowfin tuna, they do it all, and they're a really versatile rod. So these rods have been fantastic, and these two rods will definitely come with us again next year. The Saragossas are an amazing reel. They are basically waterproof. You can dunk them underwater. They're built for like commercial use. The drag washer in this one is still going strong, but the other one, the drag washer, is dead in it. So they do need to be serviced probably once a year, especially if you use them like we do, putting them in salt water all day, every day. But they're bomb-proof reels. I forgot to mention Jacq is here as well. Say g'day.
G'day.
It's just a bit of the James show today. The second rod, and again, this will be with us next year. We only have one of these. I will be buying a second one, an identical one. I like having two things the same. Why do I like that? I don't know. It's just one of those things. So this has been our casting setup, and it also, we've used it as a third trolling rod. So this rod is a Shimano, it's a Shimano Ballistic, and this exact model is the Freefall. It's one of their, mid-range casting rods. It's a PE 3 to 6. This rod is still quite sensitive in the tip, so it works really well for casting stick baits, smaller lures. A lot of the fishing we've done with this has been topwater fishing, so lots of like coral trout, tuna, stuff on topwater. Lots of tuna actually through Western Australia, lots and lots of tuna. So it's a nice light setup, and the reason you want to spend some money on a casting setup that's light is because you find that you use it for long periods of time. So we might be casting at schools of fish for a couple of hours, and if it's really, really heavy, eventually it'll make your arms pretty tired. So yeah, these rods, these are a mid-range rod. They're not super expensive, couple $100. And again, another Shimano Saragossa. This one is an 8,000, so it's just that little bit smaller. And we've got 50-pound Suffix 832 on here, so a little bit lighter. That's purely for the casting benefits. You can just cast a little bit further with the lighter line that you go with. And a lot of the time, we're not trying to stop as big a fish with this outfit. Okay, next rod. This is another one that we need two of. We actually need to go and buy two more of these because there was a little incident yesterday that I'm sure you'll see in a future video of Jacqueline losing her balance in the boat in some pretty trying conditions. It was glass calm and she just stacked it. Anyway, so unfortunately, this is not a three-piece rod, it's only a two-piece rod, but this rod, it's a Samaki Zing Extreme. Samaki make incredible rods. I've been using their rods for years, so hopefully I can track down a few more of these, but this is a 7-foot spin rod, and it's a 6 to 12-pound rod, so kind of that mid-range, and we have been through a few reels on this rod, but This is a Shimano Naski 5000 XG, so it's a bit heavy duty. This is 30 pound on this one, and we use this rod for all sorts of things. It's light enough that you can still catch whiting and smaller fish on it, like it's a great flathead rod, but it's also heavy enough that if you're in deep enough water, like we caught tuna on this rod, and when the fishing gets really good and you're catching lots of fish, having a lighter setup to challenge yourself and challenge your gear is really fun to do. So we caught some great coral trout on this rod, all sorts of things. So that mid-range setup, again, we'll have 2 of these next year, is I think an awesome addition to your quiver of rods. So the next rods, these are our light rods. They didn't get a whole lot of use across the top end of Australia, but through South Australia and Southern Western Australia, this is all we used really. They were incredible little rods. They still are. I've had these rods for years. The rods themselves are Black Savage rods, they're quite a cheap brand, not a whole lot of quality. And I bought them just as like a deep water whiting rod for Western Port Bay at home, and they just haven't broken yet. So they've been doing really well. They're a 2-piece rod. They're 7'3", so they're a little bit longer. They cast really well, and the reel on these rods is a Shimano Sedona 2500, so it's got a shallow spool, and we run really light braid on here. This has got 8-pound Suffix 832 braid on there, and because it's a shallow spool, it's only got about 150 meters on there, which is heaps when you're fishing this lighter tackles. These Sedona reels are bomb proof. I've had these for, I think I've had one of these I've had for 4 years, the other one for 2 years, but you service them every year, they just don't break. They're unreal. And yeah, the rods, we may upgrade them, but that 5 to 8 kilo range with a bit more length to allow you to cast is awesome. And they're obviously a 2-piece to allow them to fit in our storage. So sometimes I just sit these on the dash of our car in 2 pieces. So like if you pull up somewhere and want to have a quick flick, may not necessarily be in the boat, but just pull over and have a quick flick, they're there and ready to go. So yeah, that's a real bonus for these rods. Alrighty, our second last rod. This was an addition that we bought on the road, and I don't think it'll come with us next year. I think it's a bit of overkill. It kind of depends how you like to fish, but I think our medium spin setups will do exactly what this has done for us. We did spend a lot of time in Northern Territory this year, so I think that's why I got sucked into buying one of these, but this is a bait caster. It's a Daiwa TD black rod. It's a 6 to 12 kilo rod. It's 168 centimeters, so it just fits in our storage, and it is a 1-piece rod as well. It's quite stiff, and it's designed for big barra, basically. It did that job exactly. It caught us a lot of barra, and the reel is a Shimano Corrado, again with the Suffix 832 braid, and it's 50-pound braid on this one. This rod, I get attached to things too easily. I got to stop it. But this rod I've had for many years. I reckon I bought this rod when I was 16 and I'm 28 now. So I've had it for, what's that, 12 years. I've had it for 12 years, and it's, yeah, I really love this rod. It's a Shimano Raider, so just mid-range again. Beauty about this rod is it's a 4-piece spin rod, so it's a fantastic rod for when you're land-based fishing. I love it because it's 4-piece. It just tucks away. I keep it in the back of the drawers in our car, and whenever I pull up, and South Australia, I reckon I use this rod every day. You just throw a reel on it. I just normally pinch the 5000 reel off one of the mid-range spin rods, and just throw a reel on here and cast metal lures at Australian salmon. We just did that in South Australia for like 2 months. So this is a 9-foot rod, and it's a 4 to 7 kilo weight rating. So it's pretty light, and really all you want to do is cast tiny little metal lures. So yeah, this rod is a definite addition to your quiver of rods, and make sure you leave it somewhere accessible, somewhere in the car, somewhere where you can quickly grab it when the moment pops up to try and catch some good fish. Alrighty, so moving into tackle and spares and storage and all the rest of it, I did exactly the same thing as I did with our fishing rods before we left. I worked out how I want to store all our fishing tackle, and then I started, I guess, building it all out from there. So the most obvious thing is our tackle bag, and I'll go through that in a moment, but we do have this black box here, and everything with the exception to our fishing rods and our boat safety box, everything else fishing tackle wise fits in this box. So all the reels fit in here, this tackle bag fits in here, and all our spares, all our lures, all that sort of stuff, it all fits in this box. That way, whenever we get to a location to start fishing, we get the boat off the camper, put the motor on, build the trailer, and then I can grab 2 boxes. I can grab the fishing box, and then I can grab the boat box. The boat box lives in the camper trailer, the fishing box lives in the car, just in case we're land-based fishing and we don't need to like unpack the camper to get to it. But this box has lived in the car all year. It's one of the few things in the car that hasn't got a new home during our time that we've been traveling, and I think it was a really good spot for it. So I'll show you some tackle stuff that we've used, and then I'll show you what else is in this box. So with your fishing tackle, you need to store it somewhere. So for our boat, we have zero storage in the boat. There's absolutely nowhere except for the front hatch. There's nowhere to put like tackle trays or anything like that. So I know that we needed a box that would look after all our tackle, keep it organized, and also be able to withstand the elements. So the first thing I noticed with these Plano boxes is they have no zips. It's all just clips. No matter how salty it gets, it's always going to clip up and be organized. Inside this box, it's changed as we've gone, but I basically just have tackle trays with various bits of tackle in them, and then I have, you know, loose bits and pieces, kind of like one of them clown cars, like stuff just keeps coming out of it. So can fit lots of stuff in here, side pockets as well. Plenty of space in here for everything we need for a day's fishing. I don't have all our tackle in here. I've got more lures and stuff in this box, but everything that we need for the day fits in this box pretty well. Another key bit of storage is this little thing. It's just a leader organizer. So in here, we have all our different leaders. We've got like 10, 40, 60, 80, and 100. That's all we've really needed this year. I've got some lighter stuff like some 6 and some 8 pound stuff in this box that I'd use if we had to catch garfish or something like that. But really, those 5 sets of leader, that's all we need. I love that it's in this nice little thing, because if you fish and you have a boat, you'll know the easiest thing to lose, apart from your pliers and your braid scissors, is your leader. You're always looking for it. I don't know why, it's just hard to find in your boat. So this little storage thing has been sick. All right, so another bit of tackle. This doesn't always come out with us, and I'll tell you a story in a sec that's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life, but this is a lure roll, and this has got all our big game fishing lures in there. So there's a lot to see in there, but these are all basically our skirts that we use for marlin and tuna. This didn't leave the boat for a few months when we were in Western Australia, but since we've been in Northern Territory, these haven't had much use. There was one day where, I'm not going to tell you where, because I don't think people know that there's billfish in the area, but I'll say we're in the remote Kimberleys, and it was a beautiful day. It was glass calm, and a sailfish swam right up to the boat and was just cruising around the boat, and all I needed to do was to be able to pitch a bait at it, and all my like heavy game marlin hooks are in this pouch, and this pouch was back at the car. So I watched this sailfish just free swimming around the boat for a little bit and then vanish off into the abyss. So yeah, I'll go back and get it next year. But this lure roll is great. You can fit hard body lures in here, skirted lures, anything. They come in all sorts of different sizes. So yeah, that's another good one to have. So this is just like another set of game fishing equipment. This is the sort of thing that you do the day before you go out fishing. It's really hard in our boat, especially in the open ocean, to try and do like fine rigging. So these are all like heavy game hooks, spares, traces, all those sorts of things that you'd rig up the day before. So that just lives in this box, and in an afternoon the day before we've got a big day fishing planned, I'll tuck into here and get some stuff sorted. So all these things in here I use a lot. I've thinned it all out to all the different bits and pieces that we need. If you're interested and you love your bill fishing and your heavy game fishing, send us a message and I'll actually tell you what's in here, but for most people they're probably not too stressed about what's in there. Okay, final thing that I have in this box is some spares. So I've always carried around a spare spool of 300 meters of 50-pound braid. This braid is quite cheap. It's like maybe 40 bucks or something for 50-pound braid. But if we were in a remote area and for some reason on one of our big rods we got spooled, or our line was compromised in whatever way, I've got another spool of line ready to go, just so we're not restricted. When you're only carrying a certain amount of rods, if something goes wrong with one rod, it can really change how like your day of fishing might go. So making sure that you've got basic spares such as spare line, I've found to be important. We haven't needed to use it yet. We did get spooled on our 8000 Saragossa when we were on the Ningaloo, but there's a tackle shop in town, so we ended up just going into town the next day and getting that sorted. So yeah, spare braid is important. I've always got a spare filleting knife in here because you always need them. Spare rags, spare stubby holder, spare cam straps. Yeah, just spare bits and pieces that you know are going to be associated with your fishing gear that you can come back and grab. What are you laughing at?
Stubby holder.
Yeah.
Associated with your fishing gear.
So the final thing for this box, and they're currently empty, but I have these reel bags for each of the reels that we have, and I also have rod bags for each of the rods that we have. So I'll show you in a clip, but all our rods go in these bags and they slide beautifully into our storage box on our camper trailer, along with spear guns, number plate for our trailer, the gaff, anything that's long and skinny, it fits into that box on our camper trailer beautifully. But all these reel bags, they fit in this box along with our tackle bag. So I do have to pack it pretty neatly for it to all fit, but basically you take the reels out, they go inside this pouch like this, and then you put the handle in on this side, and it's just a neat way to store your reels. When you're on corrugations, anything that's touching will scratch, like absolutely anything. All right, so when it comes to fishing tackle, everyone's got an opinion. There's no right or wrong way to look at it. Pretty much when we started, this box didn't exist. Mainly this is lures, there's a couple of lures in there that I brought from home, but mainly this is lures that we've acquired along the way, and this is stuff that's sort of lasted the whole way through. So when you're planning to leave, don't stress over the tackle that you need. As you're traveling through, every single town's got a local tackle shop, and one of the best parts about local towns is you go into these small tackle shops and they're really generous with their advice. So you may spend an extra few dollars because of the remoteness of where you are, but the advice you get, it far outweighs that extra cost and may save you time on the water trying to find fish. It's also really cool just to support local small businesses. So I'd highly recommend take some tackle of stuff that you already have. Things like hooks, sinkers, swivels, stuff that you know you're going to use, and your everyday fishing lures, like lures that you like using that you know work in various waterways and environments. Definitely bring them, but worry about the specialty lures of the species that you're chasing when you get to those areas. That's what we did, and I found that we got a lot of really good information and met some really cool characters in the tackle shops around Australia. So I think that's part of traveling, going into some local tackle shops and talking crap with them and yeah, seeing what you can come up with. I've got out a few lures that I will stand by and I think are really, really good lures. Unfortunately, we haven't managed to link up with a fishing tackle brand just yet. Hopefully that comes pretty soon, but I've got a heap of lures here that worked really, really well for us when we've been traveling. So I'll show you what they are, and if they work for you, then that's awesome. So the first ones, and you would have seen us use these all the way across the western and northern parts of Australia, are Halco Laser Pros. I've said it in so many of our videos. They're one of the cheapest diving lures you can get. They're somewhere between $18 to $25 per lure, depending on where you are. We've been through a lot of Laser Pros this year. I would say upwards of 30 to 40. I'm looking at Jacq, she's nodding, maybe even more. I've got two of my favorites out here. This is a 172 meter diver Laser Pro. You'll find the bodies get smashed up, they lose a little bit of their colour, teeth of fish trash them, but they still work perfectly. You do need to be on top of maintaining your hooks and your split rings. So once they start to rust, and you'll see this set here is getting pretty close to being done, you do need to make sure that you change out your hooks and your split rings pretty regularly. Otherwise you could be on that fish of a lifetime and they could give way. So this is one of our favourite lures for things like Spanish mackerel, wahoo. This lure's caught some really good tuna. This exact lure caught our mate Kieran's hand really well as well. So like this exact one, I've obviously changed the hooks because we had to cut the hooks out, but yeah, this is a crowd favourite for sure. Another one of our favourites is this lime green UV one. This one is a 190, so it's slightly bigger, and it's a 6 meter diver. So this one does dive a lot deeper. I think I was saying in one of our previous videos in Arnhem Land, a lot of people think that you can run these at the same speed as these. If it's perfect conditions, you can, but a lot of the time these deeper ones need to be run a little bit slower, especially if you're running trebles. If you're running singles, they'll swim a bit better at speed, but if you're running trebles, you do need to run them a little bit slower. But these catch all sorts. These will catch Spanish mackerel, coral trout, big cod, all sorts of things. And the fact that they can get that little bit deeper is a really good variation to have. So another one of our favourite lures is a Halco Sly Dog. This is a surface lure, or we call it a stick bait. This is one of the last ones we have left, because when we were in Arnhem Land, we went through so many of these. Again, they are on the cheaper side of stick baits. Some stick baits are like 50 bucks, but basically these lures will work perfectly out of the box. You put a split ring and a swivel on the front of the lure, and they swim just as good as all the other ones, I reckon. So they're a bloody good lure. Heaps of different colours available, but sometimes it doesn't even matter what the colour is, especially when you're in Arnhem Land. The fish will hit whatever's going, except for long-tailed tuna. They're very fussy, so that's another really good lure as well. All right, so those lures that we just talked about there, they're all sort of specialty lures that you really don't use that much down south. But one lure that you can pretty much use anywhere is a Daiwa double clutch. They are a fantastic lure. We use them non-stop. We've been using them out here in this lake, trying to catch flathead with them this morning. They're very versatile. You can get them in 3 different sizes. They're maybe like $20 to $25 each. They are kind of expensive for the size of them, but swim really well, really good lures. Soft plastics are another really cool lure to have with you. they are a lot cheaper than, say, a stick bait. So you might spend $20 on one of these, but $20 of soft plastics is a whole packet of soft plastics and a whole packet of jig heads. A cheaper option if you're losing lots of fish to reef and stuff, you might choose to put on a soft plastic if you're losing all your expensive lures, but which brand of soft plastic you use, they're all pretty similar really. We use the Daiwa ones and the Z-Man ones just because they're really tough and fish won't bite them in half. You can spend more money on higher quality plastics, but if a fish bites it, you might come back with half a plastic, then you got a half plastic, which is no good. Yeah, so soft plastics are definitely worth throwing in your tackle box if you got them. And last but not least, one of the greatest lures ever made, a Halco Twisty. Really, anything that's silver with a treble on the back of it that you have is definitely worth bringing through all of South Australia and Southern WA. This is just an Australian salmon catching machine. Lots of people forget to put on a swivel on the top because these things do spin. So if you just tie this lure directly to the end of your line with no swivel, eventually after a couple of hours of casting, your lure will spin and spin and spin, and it will spin your main line, and then you'll go to cast, and then all of a sudden you'll just have this bird's nest of line midway through your line. It's called a wind knot, and that's what happens when you don't put a swivel on a lure that is designed to spin. So make sure you do that with all your twisties or your metals or your chromes or whatever you want to call them, but as long as you've got a couple of these, they work for everything. All right, the last thing is tools. So these are forever changing because they get rusted really easy. We drop them over the side, they just get lost in the camper trailer. So this is a forever changing ordeal, but you do need a good pair of long pliers. Longer the better in terms of the length of the pliers. You want to keep your hand as far away from teethy fish like Spanish mackerel, wahoo, sharks, all those sorts of things. You will thank me. The longest you can get. If you can find longer than these, send me the link. I want them. I want the longest pliers possible. They do get rusted because they're in the boat all day, so these ones we've actually had these ones for nearly 6 months. They've done it pretty good. They get an inox spraying every couple of weeks, and yeah, they've still got a bit of life left in them. A good pair of braid scissors. These are really important. Always looking for them. Can never find them. Jacq always steals them and blames me for not having them in the boat, and she finds them in her pocket later on that day. A couple of pairs of scissors in tactical positions around the boat so you can always find them when you need them. Filleting knife. I like the Victorinox knives. I reckon that for the price, they're pretty good. You can sharpen them up. We have a sharpening stone and we sharpen it a fair bit, and it's been a really good knife. Definitely a must. Well guys, if you've made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. I really hope that information was helpful. As I said, I was lucky. Before we left, I had some mates that had just finished this trip and they were very fishing driven for the time they were away, so I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to take, but it's just cool to see what other people do. I spent heaps of time at campsites when we've come in from fishing, just chatting with people and saying, hey, like, what gear do you use? What do you find that works? What lures have been working for you? And that's one of the best things about being on the road, is just talking fishing with people that want to talk fishing. I absolutely love it. It's so much fun. So yeah, thanks for watching. I really hope this information was useful to you. If you have any questions, our Instagram is always open. We love replying to people. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments as well. It's cool to see like a little bit of a community building around our videos and people sharing some cool info. So please keep doing that, and thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll see you when we see ya.